Hey, good morning. So, yeah, I'm having a problem with the layout editor. So, I've been working on this template for a long time. I kind of put it on the back burner for a bit, and it came up in conversation, so I went back to it. So, I got this template here. It mimics my data sheets, meticulously mimics. So, I got, doc date, heading, subheading, project name formula, all this stuff. There's formulas everywhere to kind of provide the best information possible. And it looks sharp compared to my data sheets. It's pretty much a dead ringer match. So as you can see, if I go to font, these fields are Aileron Regular 8. Uh, there are other fonts in use. Aileron Black 17 and so forth. And it's also important to note that there are some conditional fonts on here, but it is not they're not applied to any of the fields that I'm having a problem with here. I'm not sure how to prove that. I edit. So here's the ones I got. I got, if there's a comment, make it bold. If no shipping, make it blank. If no taxes, grand total. I got project name, dynamic header size, and sold to header dynamic size, which are for the company name and the project name. If they're long, it'll shrink the font. Just to show you how I'm using some of these dynamic fonts. So I said that the size of these headings will shrink based on how many characters there are. So what I did was I went in and I made multiple different sized fonts for the heading, sold to heading size, which is this. The first one is size 12, and the next one is smaller at size 11, and so on and so forth. And then what I did was I went into the conditional fonts and I made this sold to dynamic size. So if the length of characters is greater than or equal to 35, use size 1. If it's greater than or equal to 40, 44, 47, 54. So sizes 1 through 5. So as there's more characters, the font gets smaller. I do the same thing on this side as well. But there's nothing applied to any of these regular fields with this aileron regular 8, which I believe is possibly the only one affected, but there could be others. So anyhow, if I go to preview it, this one here is a couple pages long, and it looks fine. There's nothing wrong with it. This is how it's supposed to be looking. Now, if I were to go to a client machine, let's say I take this font now, this is in a folder that I kind of have cordoned off. But if I were to go ahead and install this layout in the main folder, so this is the file. If I were to go over to a user station now, so I'm now remoted into another workstation. And first, just to show, I have Aileron installed. All of the different variants are installed. It works fine. Now if I'm going to open QuoteWerks up, which this computer is a little bit on the slower end, so bear with me. But let's open a file, a quote. I probably should have did that beforehand, but I wanted to show all the steps to make sure that everyone was aware of what was happening. Let me sort this by doc date. Now let's open this one up. Alright, so this is just a parts quote. I chose this because there's not a lot of information that other people would see. Now, if I were to preview this, and this is not Aileron font. This is, some of this is, some of it isn't. Some of it's the wrong font. And then what's even weirder, if I go into it, is edit the template. If I go to one of these fields, and I go to the font, it already knows that it's Aileron font. But notice what happens when I hit OK. See that? I didn't change anything, but when I hit OK, it refreshed it to the correct font. I don't remember which field. I believe it was this field. So in this particular user's case, the font doesn't look horribly off from what it's supposed to be, but it's not the right font. And it's not every field. It seems to be mostly relegated to the regular Aileron font. And you'll notice that the other ones didn't update. I've seen it where when you change one, they all update. And I've seen it the other way too, where that doesn't happen. And it's also different machines render the font differently. I actually had someone do this for me yesterday, and their rendering was a completely different font entirely. As you can see, if I were to copy this font and paste it into Word, the font that it used was Bebe's New Book 8. But again, the template has Aileron as the font. And I don't really want to have to update every field, because when you start updating fields, the next thing that happens is that the images will disappear sometimes. And I also don't know what happens if I do this on this machine, what happens to the next machine. So I'm going to try to just edit everything, but I'm very concerned that I'm going to have a lot of problems here, especially when it doesn't always let me multi-click things, and there's so many things that are just a little wonky and not right with this editor. And I know that there's not much you could do with it, but this thing where the font rendering incorrectly is really, really unfortunate, especially because let's say I do that on one machine And then let's say I go to a third machine, and is it going to work on the third machine? Am I going to have to do that again on that machine? When I do it on that machine, is it going to mess up the first machine? Is it going to mess up the second machine? You know, I could really use some help. I don't think this font's right either. Let's see. Regular 14. Yeah. Yeah, see? So that one came out wrong too, and when I updated it, now all the pictures are gone. And there's no way to bring that back. I have to reload, I have to place the images again, and then I have to resize them. And the problem with that is that when I place them, they're the wrong size, and I have to, and no matter what size I make the images, they come out the wrong size, and so I have to go in and figure out how many pixels it's supposed to be, and then I have to kind of hold shift. I'm going to do it on this label here just to show you, but if you watch this bottom corner here, in 529.95, if you hold shift and hit, you know, down, up, whatever, that you can resize the objects. And then you also have to go into this grid and turn off snap to grid. And then if it turns out your value needs to be odd instead of even, then you have to go in and turn snap to grid on, but change it to an odd number so that the next, when you click it, the field can update to an odd number, which it, or an even number, which it is now. And then I got to go back in here again and turn the snap to grid back off so that I can resize it. See, I didn't do it right on the odd that time for this one. I only did the one dimension. Do it again. Okay, so now they're both even. So now I can go in and make it the exact pixel dimensions I need, because what happens is when it places wrong, it's blurry, it's not correct. And it doesn't matter what file type I use, it doesn't matter how big the source file is, I have to do it. And not only that, I'll have to go in and actually find the files again. But ultimately, it's for moot, because I don't know if it's going to have to, if it happens on the next workstation and I got to do it all over again on the next workstation, and then what am I supposed to do with that? So I could really use some help with this, please, because it's just very frustrating, because I can't tell you how many hours I spent meticulously laying this thing out and making all kinds of formulas, and I have this blurb on the bottom here. It'll give more or less blurb information based on whether or not you have shipping. And then I have a blurb here that I have hidden in tiny, unless the job's in Ohio. And if the job's in Ohio and there's no tax shown, then it'll say unless a valid Ohio tax exemptions on file, expect an additional 6.75% tax charge for $ plus the actual value that it calculates out to. And then I have this, you know, smart shipping label. I say, if there's shipping on the quote and there's a zip code listed on the quote, estimated shipping to zip code. If there's shipping but there's no zip code listed, it just says estimated shipping and handling. In the event there's no shipping at all, then it just leaves that off there entirely. And in that case, this report footage blurb will take off the stuff about shipping charges changing based on extra services added. And, you know, all this little stuff that I did, trying to make this as nice as I can. It's just, it would be a real shame if I couldn't use it because I can't get the font to work correctly. You know what I mean? Some other little things I did. I have two different headers. One header is for if the customer has a dealer or distributor pricing. So it gives the list price and then it gives their discounted price. And then I have another one where if they only have list price, it leaves off the column that would be discounted, just so the customer's not even aware they're not getting a discount at all. I have the address bar. Look at the formula on this thing. If you have any missing information, instead of leaving a blank line in there, it rewrites the whole thing. So it's all nice and clean and even. Does it on both sides. And it's also hard to do that because these boxes next to each other, if one's longer than the other, then it screws up the spacing on one. So I went through this really big, elaborate thing just to try to make that work, and I did. It made it work, and it looks nice, and it's cool, and I like it. It automatically adds the phone number to the customer. It automatically does this. It automatically does that. So you got, you know, sold to company label. You got all these things that are all dynamic and changing. In the same vein as the distributor versus list pricing, actually I have 4 detail sections because I have a detail section for the dealer that is white, and then I have one that's like a blue background. And I did the same thing for the list price, where I have the white and the blue background, and they alternate based on the filter. So if document header sold to price profile is blank, or says list, or says list, or says list, in all the different cases that it might possibly be in. And if it's not line type 4, I forget what that is. And it's line number 1 or 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, so on and so forth, all the way to line 51. It will be white. And then the same thing for the blues, but it's going to be evens instead of odds. So I've got alternating white and blue for list only. I got white alternating white and blue for your distributor pricing. Project name formula. If it's blank, write if it's not blank, put project name is such and such. If it's blank, just leave it empty. Lead time. If there's a lead time listed, estimated lead time is X. If not, the lead time's undefined. Same thing for the terms. If they are TBD or blank, terms of sale are undefined. Otherwise, terms of sale are the terms of sale. Project valid until. And then I have a special circumstance with one of my dealers that we gave them an extra 15 days of lead time, which I had originally had mathematically just adding that number to here, but we actually changed it in the back end for Hayward. I got a script that automatically updates that. So I do make a scene out of it, though. I say special Hayward turnstiles expiration date is the expiration date, versus if it's not Hayward, it just says expiration date. Shipping method, same thing. If it's blank or it's not defined, and it says, oh, it's not defined. Otherwise, it tells you what it is. Yeah, so there's a lot going on here, and I'm really proud of it. It looks very much like the data sheet templates that we have. That Except I'm in the sandbox environment, so these are actually out of date. We have them replaced now, where these are matches this. But I'm in the sandbox, so it doesn't show that right now. But like to the pixel, everything is perfectly lined up, and so I really would like it if I can get the fonts to work right. So thank you.